Have you ever considered the possibility that human beings can, in a very real sense, see the edge of the universe touch the boundary of time itself, and yet remain utterly blind to what lies beyond? It sounds like something out of myth or horror fiction, but it is not. Every night when you look at the stars, you are already looking at a version of this truth, though in fragments, though dimly. What you see is not the present. You are not seeing stars as they are, but as they once were, their light stretched and slowed across oceans of time before finally falling into your eyes. That means you are a witness to history in every glance upward, a traveler without moving an inch, bound to a time machine made not of gears but of photons. Imagine standing in a vast cathedral, older than memory, older than language, so large that your vision cannot trace its roof or its walls. Within this place, the walls are not stone. They are woven from light, ancient light, light that left its source long before your species drew its first breath. You are surrounded, wrapped, even imprisoned in this radiance. This is not metaphor, this is physics. Our observable universe is a kind of glowing sphere, a bubble of memory in which every star, every galaxy, every cosmic whisper is a story long since concluded, replaying itself before your eyes. To live in this bubble is to live in a paradox. You are both astronomer and archaeologist, gazing at a cosmos that is always already dead yet still luminous. The sun itself is a ghost of 8 minutes ago. The North Star, a ghost of centuries. The galaxies you trace in faint spirals across the black echoes of billions of years. What you call the present sky is an archive, a museum of vanished moments. The stage play has ended, the actors long gone, but the curtain never drops. The photons pour in endlessly, offering a performance from which you can never leave because you cannot see beyond it. This is why some thinkers call the cosmos a haunted theatre. A theatre where you never see the stagehands, never glimpse the machinery, never touch the script itself. Only the performance, and always a performance long expired. You are watching shadows projected on the inside of a sphere that expands as you live, and yet every shadow is already gone. Take a moment and let that thought settle. The universe, you know, is not the universe as it is, but as it was. You are a prisoner of memory, and the prison walls are woven of light. It is a strange kind of comfort, and also a strange kind of terror. Comfort because the light binds us to everything that has ever burned, a golden thread stretching across billions of years. Terror because it means we are not looking at reality itself, only its reflection. A reflection that deceives us with beauty and hides the truth beyond reach. What lies outside the bubble? What hides behind the veil beyond the point where light can no longer carry tales to us? These questions are not only unanswered, they may be unanswerable. And yet they gnaw at us because we are creatures who long to know what stands on the other side of the dark. If we could peel back the fabric of this bubble, would we find another universe, one alien and unreachable? Would we find a void so absolute that even thought cannot wander into it? Or would we find nothing at all, not emptiness, but the absence of emptiness? The edge of time is not simply a wall of light. It is a mirror turned inward, reflecting our hunger to know and our horror at the silence that answers us. And so we are left to wonder, to gaze outward, and find ourselves instead staring inward, seeing not just the cosmos, but the fragile limitations of our own perception. Perhaps this is the essence of cosmic horror, not monsters, not tentacled gods, lurking in forgotten corners of the galaxy, but the realization that the universe is both visible and unknowable, luminous yet impenetrable, a stage whose curtain never parts. We are inside a glowing sphere, and the farther we reach, the more the edges blur, reminding us that we can never step outside. That is the doorway into the journey. You are about to take a journey through the horror and the beauty of a cosmos that reveals itself in fragments and always hides more than it shows. Pause here. Take a breath. Look up at the night sky if you can. Realize that what you see is not what is, but what was. Realize that you are standing inside a bubble of memory at once, magnificent and terrifying. That is where we begin. Now, after wandering through ideas and images, after peering across billions of years into the most ancient echoes of creation, we return at last to the thought that started it all. We stand again before the edge of time, only now the shape of it is sharper, more haunting. Yes, we can see the end of time in one direction, we can map it, even photograph it, but beyond it there is nothing but silence. That silence is not absence. It is a presence of its own, a weight pressing down on every question we ask. We are small, and that smallness has never been clearer than when standing before the infinite. Think of it this way. Every human being who has ever lived, every city, every empire, every thought has unfolded within a fraction of this glowing bubble. Outside of it, infinity stretches untouched, and we do not even know if it can ever be touched. The cosmic horror here is not the threat of annihilation, it is the certainty of irrelevance. The universe does not care whether we understand it, and yet we are compelled to try like moths striking again and again against the lantern's glass. There is a deep humility in this recognition. It strips away the illusion that the universe was built for us. It forces us to accept that our place is not at the center of a grand design, but in a corner of something without corners. And yet, within that humility, there is a kind of holiness, a quiet reverence for the very fact that we can ask at all. The questions may never be answered, but the act of asking is its own kind of meaning. Perhaps that is the strange gift hidden in the horror. We are fragile creatures locked in a bubble of memory, watching ghosts of stars trying to sketch infinity on paper made of shadows. But in doing so, we become part of the story. Our longing, our reaching, our awe, and our fear, they are the universe reflecting back upon itself. When you gaze into the abyss does not notice, but the act of gazing makes you human. Take a moment now. Let the silence settle. Imagine yourself floating inside that great sphere of light, suspended in the black, aware of how tiny you are and how vast it all is. Do not run from the smallness, embrace it. It is the reminder that you are alive, that you can see, that you can wonder. We can see the edge of time, but not beyond it. That fact may never change, and maybe it does not need to. Because the mystery itself is the gift, the terror, and the beauty entwined. To be alive in such a universe, to touch its edges, even from within our prison of light, is to participate in something greater than knowledge. It is to stand in awe, and maybe, just maybe, awe is enough. There is a boundary the human eye will never cross, a limit, written not on the maps of our world, but in the very fabric of reality itself. This is the cosmic horizon, the edge of what can ever be seen. Unlike a mountain or a wall, it does not rise before us as a visible object. Instead, it is woven into the laws of space and time, a line painted not in stone but in light. When you gaze outward at the stars, when you trace the faint glow of galaxies through a telescope, you are staring toward this invisible wall. It is not a distance you can walk toward, nor a frontier a spaceship can ever cross. It is a horizon in the truest sense, forever retreating, as you move, forever unreachable, and yet undeniably there. Think of standing on the shore of an ocean. The waves crash at your feet, the air carries the smell of salt, and your eyes trace the line where sea meets sky. You know, of course, that the water does not end there. Ships have sailed beyond it, explorers have crossed it, the globe has been mapped and circled. But to your eyes alone, the horizon is the end. It is a visual boundary, a reminder of the limits of perspective. Now take that feeling, that mixture of awe and futility, and stretch it across the universe. That is the cosmic horizon. It is the farthest edge we can ever see, not because nothing lies beyond, but because the light from beyond has not, and in some cases never will reach us. The horizon is not merely far away, it is a kind of prison. Imagine yourself floating in the blackness of space, surrounded by galaxies like lanterns suspended in a dark ocean. As you drift outward, you notice something strange. The lanterns farthest from you seem to recede, not because you move, but because space itself stretches between you. No matter how fast you travel, no matter how determined your journey, those distant lights are slipping away faster than you can chase them. And beyond a certain distance, they recede faster than even light can outrun. That is the meaning of the horizon, the place where the speed of expansion overtakes the speed of light, where the universe itself is pulling away faster than messages, signals, or dreams can cross. This is not an abstract idea, it is measurable. Astronomers can point to galaxies so far that their light, even traveling for billions of years, is still stretched thin, elongated like taffy by the expanding cosmos. Some of these galaxies are already gone erased by collisions or decay, but their light is only now arriving like postcards mailed by hands long dead. Beyond them lies the great silence. The horizon marks a truth more unsettling than the vastness of space. It tells us that there are places in the universe we know exist, yet we will never see them, never touch them, never even know their history. They are sealed away not by distance but by the laws of reality itself. Pause for a moment and let that sink in. You live in a universe with a boundary not because the universe ends there, but because your perception does. You are trapped in a bubble not of matter but of visibility. Beyond it lies the unknown, not merely undiscovered but undiscoverable. That is the true terror of the cosmic horizon. The explorers of the Earth could always hope to sail further, climb higher, dive deeper. They might risk death, but they were never guaranteed ignorance. You, however, no matter how brave, no matter how clever, face a wall that cannot be breached. It is not the wall of a prison, it is the wall of perception itself, and it is permanent. This realization unsettles even the most rational mind. We like to imagine the universe as a whole, a complete object we might someday map, comprehend, or master. But the horizon is a reminder that such wholeness is forever denied us. What we call the universe is only the visible portion, the local chapter, in a book that extends into pages we will never read. Somewhere beyond that line, galaxies are born, stars ignite, planets circle, and perhaps even life wanders at its own horizons. But to us they are shadows without light. They may as well be myths, real but unreachable. In this sense, the horizon is both a scientific truth and a philosophical wound. It whispers that our maps are always incomplete, that our knowledge, no matter how precise, is a fragment of a larger truth we cannot grasp. It is the ultimate frustration for the human spirit, which has always sought to break boundaries, to move beyond. It tells us that here at last is a boundary not of courage or technology, but of nature itself. You can imagine, if you wish, civilizations beyond that line, even entire structures of cosmic architecture, titanic clusters of galaxies, wonders and horrors alike. But your imagination is all that can ever touch them. Consider how strange this makes the human condition. We are beings who live inside an invisible cage, aware of it, conscious of its bars, yet powerless to step beyond. We are like fish that swim to the edge of an aquarium and press against the glass, knowing water continues beyond but unable to pass. Only our glass is not made of silica and heat. It is made of the very speed of light, the very flow of time. To speak of the horizon is to speak of finality. Yet it is also a mirror reflecting not only the limits of the universe, but the limits of ourselves. We measure the horizon in light years, in expansion rates, in redshifts, but what we are really measuring is our own inability to know. Each equation, each telescope is a way of quantifying our blindness. The horizon is where the dream of total knowledge collapses, and we must admit that mystery is not simply a temporary gap to be filled, but a permanent feature of reality. There is a strange comfort in this as well, for if the universe were fully knowable, if every page could be read, every star catalogued, every galaxy counted, then perhaps it would feel smaller, tamer, more mundane. The horizon keeps the cosmos infinite. It preserves the sense of wonder. It ensures that no matter how advanced we become, there will always be questions left open, silences left unbroken. In this way, the cosmic horizon is both a cage and a gift. It terrifies us with limits, but it blesses us with endless mystery. And so when you next look at the night sky, remember that you are not seeing everything, not even close. You are peering into a circle carved by time and light, and beyond that circle lies an ocean you can never touch. Imagine the shore again, the line where sea meets sky. Now imagine that line is absolute, that no ship, no swimmer, no dreamer will ever cross it. That is the reality of our cosmos. It is larger than your vision, larger than your life, and in that largeness is both fear and awe. The horizon is the reminder that we are not central, not sovereign, but small. It humbles us, and in doing so it points us back to the deeper mystery of time itself. For what creates this horizon, what shapes its edge, is not merely space but the age of the cosmos. The line you cannot cross is drawn not just by distance but by history. And if we wish to understand why the wall exists, we must begin not with galaxies or oceans of space, but with the ticking of cosmic time. Light is the memory of the universe. That sentence may sound poetic, but it is also a literal description of how reality reveals itself to us. Every observation, every glance at the night sky, every pixel captured by a telescope is not a live broadcast, but a recording, a delayed message carried by the speed of light. When you look up at the stars tonight, you are not seeing the stars as they are. You are seeing them as they were sometimes years ago, sometimes centuries, sometimes billions of years in the past. The universe never shows you its present. It shows you its memories. Consider the star Sirius, the brightest in our night sky. Its light takes about 8.5 years to reach Earth. That means if Sirius were to vanish this very instant, if it collapsed into darkness, we would go on believing it still burned for almost a decade. Every wish whispered beneath its glow, every story told beneath its shine, would be addressed not to the living star but to its ghost. And Sirius is close by cosmic standards. Imagine the Andromeda galaxy 2.5 million light-years away. To see it is to gaze 2.5 million years into the past, back to a time before modern humans even existed. When you look at Andromeda, you are looking at light that began its journey long before your species began to dream. This is the paradox of astronomy. The farther you look, the older the story becomes. Galaxies at the edge of our vision are not distant in the sense of space alone, they are distant in time. They are fossils made of light, still traveling across the expanding dark. The night sky is less a landscape than a time machine, less a canvas than an archive. You are never looking outward, you are always looking backward. Every star is a diary entry, every nebula, a photograph pressed between the pages of history. The telescope is not just an instrument of sight, it is an instrument of memory. Pause for a moment and think about this. The cosmos you see above your head is already gone. Not gone in the sense that nothing exists there now, but gone in the sense that what you are witnessing has already passed. You live inside a gallery of ghosts, a cosmic museum where the exhibits are ancient photons, finally arriving after journeys that outlasted continents, species, entire civilizations. Your own life, measured in decades, is barely long enough to register even the smallest shifts in this gallery. The constellations seem eternal to you only because your life is too brief to see their slow dance unravel. Stars drift, galaxies collide, universes change. But all of it happens on scales of time so vast that your senses cannot catch the movement. What you see frozen, as if someone pressed pause. But the universe never pauses. It only appears that way because you are watching reruns, because light itself carries only what was never what is. This leads to a strange inversion. We often think of memory as fragile, subject to forgetting, to distortion. Yet in the cosmos, light preserves memory more faithfully than any mind. A beam of light leaving a star does not age the way we do. It carries its record unchanged, across unimaginable gulfs of space. Billions of years later, it still bears witness. The universe remembers itself in light, and we, by accident of evolution and curiosity, have learned to read that memory. Our entire understanding of the cosmos rests on these messages, these fragile particles that survive the cold and the dark to reach us. To study astronomy is to read the diary of existence written in photons. But memory is always selective. Just as human memory cannot recall every detail of a life, cosmic memory too has its limits. Light can only tell the story of things luminous or things illuminated. Much of the universe is invisible to it, hidden behind dust or shrouded in darkness. For every star that announces itself with brilliance, countless objects remain silent, too faint or too obscured for their light to ever reach us. The picture we have of the universe is incomplete, and perhaps always will be. It is a mosaic of fragments, a library with most of its volumes missing. Yet we call it knowledge because it is all we can have. And still, even in its incompleteness, there is something staggering about the fact that the night sky is a living record. When you stand outside on a clear evening and lift your gaze, you are not simply looking at stars. You are looking into a time machine that stretches across billions of years, into a narrative that began long before Earth cooled or oceans formed. Every photon is a traveler, every beam of light a messenger whispering news from an ancient world. Some photons began their journey when dinosaurs still walked the Earth, others when Earth was a molten sphere, others still when Earth itself did not yet exist. To be alive and to see them is to hold a communion with the past, a link between the fragile moment of your life and the unimaginable scale of cosmic time. There is a quiet, almost meditative horror in realizing that the present universe is always hidden from us. We can never truly see what is happening now. We live in delay, in echoes, in afterimages. Our cosmic vision is always behind the truth, always trailing by years, centuries, millennia, even billions of years. And because of the finite speed of light, there will always be parts of the universe we see only in their infancy, never as they are. In a sense, humanity will never know the living cosmos, only its memory. We are archivists, not witnesses. Yet this horror carries beauty as well. To live in such a universe is to live inside the greatest story ever told, one that writes itself across the sky. And unlike human stories, this one is not written in ink or stone, but in radiation, in light older than history itself. Every night offers you a chance to read a passage to trace the arc of galaxies across time. What you cannot know is what the next passage will be, because you will never see it in the present. That is both a loss and a gift. The loss is obvious, we will never glimpse the true now of the cosmos. The gift is subtler, we are spared. The illusion of permanence, reminded instead that all things are fleeting, that all things change, and that even light itself is a record of impermanence. Think again of the phrase, light is the memory of the universe. It is not metaphor, but reality. Without light, there would be no history, no knowledge, no way to reconstruct what happened before. Light is the storyteller, and we are its listeners. But there is one story more ancient than all the rest, one image more profound than every star or galaxy we have ever seen. It is the oldest photograph in existence, the first picture the universe ever allowed us to take. It is not of a star or a planet, but of the cosmos itself, in its infancy. A picture not painted by artists, not imagined in myth, but written directly into the radiation that still surrounds us, invisible yet everywhere. This is the oldest map we have ever seen, the deepest memory preserved in light, and it is waiting for us to unfold its meaning. This is the oldest picture of the universe. Not a photograph in the ordinary sense, not an image captured by a camera lens in a single moment of human time, but a picture written into the very radiation that still floods the cosmos. It is called the Cosmic Microwave Background, or CMB, and it is the afterglow of creation itself, the faded light of a universe so young that galaxies had not yet formed, stars had not yet ignited, and even atoms had only just begun to exist. Imagine the cosmos when it was only 3,800,000 years old. By human reckoning, that sounds ancient, but compared to its present age of nearly 14 billion years, it is the blink of an eye, a newborn just opening its eyes for the first time. In those earliest moments, the universe was a furnace, a seething ocean of particles and energy. Light could not move freely through this ocean. It scattered, bounced, ricocheted off the dense fog of electrons and protons. It was like trying to see across a room filled with thick smoke, every photon deflected before it could travel far. For nearly 400,000 years, the universe was opaque, shrouded in a brilliance that concealed itself. Then something changed. The universe cooled just enough for protons and electrons to combine, forming the first neutral atoms. Suddenly, the fog lifted. Photons once trapped in the chaos were released. They began to travel outward free at last, and they have been traveling ever since. Those photons are the cosmic microwave background. They are the fossil light of the first moment the universe became transparent, a moment etched into the very structure of reality. What we see in the CMB is not stars or galaxies, but the texture of the cosmos itself in its infancy, tiny ripples in temperature and density that would one day grow into everything we know. Clusters of galaxies, solar systems, the Earth, you. It is the closest thing we have to a baby picture of the universe. A grainy portrait of creation written across the entire sky. If you could tune your eyes to microwaves instead of visible light, you would see it yourself. An all-encompassing glow that surrounds you from every direction. It is not localized, not tied to any star or galaxy, but woven into the background of reality itself. Pause here and let this image form in your mind. The night sky, as beautiful as it is only the foreground. Beyond the stars, beyond the galaxies lies this faint glow, the leftover heat of the Big Bang stretched thin by billions of years of expansion. Astronomers can map it with exquisite precision, translating its whispers into colors we can see. The result looks almost like static on an old television screen, blotches of red, blue, and yellow. Yet in that static is the memory of everything. It is the oldest light we will ever see, the farthest past we can ever glimpse. The CMB is often described as a wall, and in a sense it truly is. It marks the limit of our vision, not because the universe ceases beyond it, but because light itself cannot pierce what came before. The fog of the early universe blocks us, leaving us blind to everything that happened in those first 3,800,000 years. We know they existed. We can calculate, infer, theorize, but we cannot see. The wall is absolute. No telescope, no technology, no clever trick of science can look beyond it. To do so would require breaking the very laws of physics as we understand them. This is both awe-inspiring and terrifying. Awe-inspiring because we are able to see so far back to touch with our instruments the very dawn of time. Terrifying because it confronts us with an ultimate boundary. The universe does not give us access to its whole story. It teases us, offering a glimpse of its first light, but keeps the deeper truth hidden forever. It is as if we have found a diary of creation, but the first pages are missing, torn out, sealed away. We can only read from the moment the cosmos allowed itself to be seen. There is a profound humility in this. The CMB reminds us that we are not all-knowing, that there are veils we cannot lift. For centuries, humans believed that with enough effort, enough exploration, we could map the whole of existence. The CMB tells us otherwise. It tells us that the most ancient part of the universe is forever hidden behind a curtain of its own making. We live in front of that curtain, watching the shadows it allows us to see, while behind it lies a stage we will never set foot upon. Consider again the metaphor of a theatre. The CMB is the curtain that finally rises, revealing the first scene we are allowed to witness. Before it, the stage is hidden. After it, the play begins to unfold. Galaxies cluster, stars ignite, planets spin. But that first act, the mysterious prologue, remains forever off-limits. To know it is to imagine it, to build models and theories, but never to see. That absence gnaws at us, because it is in those earliest instants that the deepest questions reside. What triggered the Big Bang? What laws governed the universe when it was a storm of incomprehensible energy? Did patterns form that still echo today? We stand before the wall of light and realize we cannot answer. We can only wonder, and yet perhaps wonder is enough. The CMB is more than a scientific artifact. It is a reminder of our place in the cosmos. To look at it is to stand at the edge of knowledge, to confront the fact that we are small, temporary beings gazing across billions of years into a silence that does not break. It is a humbling confrontation with mystery, and in that confrontation lies both fear and reverence. The CMB is the greatest relic we possess, the most ancient message delivered to us, and it whispers both truth and denial. take a moment and imagine yourself surrounded by it. Not just stars, not just galaxies, but the faint, omnipresent glow of the universe's first light. You are immersed in it even now. Every second of your life, that ancient radiation washes over you, unnoticed, invisible, yet unceasing. It is the oldest song the universe sings, and you are always within earshot. But beyond the glow behind the wall lies something else. A time we cannot see, a history we cannot know. The universe does not end at the curtain, but it refuses to let us look beyond. That is the haunting truth of the CMB. It shows us the farthest past we can ever see, while reminding us that the true beginning remains hidden forever. And as we linger on this thought, another follows, darker still. For if the wall hides the first pages of the universe's story, then what else might be hidden beyond it? What mysteries, what structures, what truths might exist in the unseen? We are left to stand before the veil, our curiosity burning against a silence that will never answer. If there is an edge to space, then it is also the edge of time. That thought is unsettling because it forces us to reconsider what it means to live in a universe with limits, not just in the sense of distance, but in the sense of history itself. The observable universe, vast as it is not infinite. It has an age, and because of that age, it also has a boundary. We cannot see farther than the Big Bang, not because there is nothing beyond, but because time itself did not permit any light to escape from before that moment. In every direction we look, our vision is ultimately stopped, not by walls of matter or dark voids, but by the sheer fact that time had a beginning. When we peer into the night sky, we are looking back across billions of years, following beams of ancient light that began their journeys long before humans existed, long before Earth existed, long before the Milky Way even spun into its familiar spiral. Every telescope is a time machine pulling the past into the present, but the time machine has a limit. It cannot go farther back than the first instant of light, because before that instant there was no transparency, no window into the cosmos. Beyond that lies only silence. It is as though history itself has erected a barricade, saying, "Here your vision must stop. Beyond this line you cannot follow." This limit is not a matter of poor technology. It is not something we can solve with a bigger telescope, sharper lenses, or more powerful satellites. It is woven into the structure of reality. The Big Bang marks a horizon of time, as surely as the cosmic horizon marks a boundary of space. We live in a bubble that is not just spatial but temporal, defined by how far light has had time to travel since the beginning. The observable universe is therefore both a sphere in space and a sphere in time. The horror lies in the realization that we are prisoners of this bubble, not in the trivial sense that we cannot travel faster than light, but in the deeper sense that we cannot see farther back than the beginning of transparency. We are trapped in a limited slice of time's flow, forced to confront the fact that our knowledge of the cosmos is not just incomplete, but permanently incomplete. Even if humanity survives for another million years, even if our technology becomes godlike, we will never pierce beyond the veil of the first moments. Time itself forbids it. This is the cosmic horror of chronology. Imagine standing on the shore of an ocean that stretches infinitely beyond the horizon. You know there are waters out there, perhaps continents, perhaps whole worlds, but your sight cannot pass the curvature of the Earth. The difference here is that the horizon is not a feature of geography, but of existence itself. It is not just that you cannot see the farther waves, but that the very concept of vision ends at the boundary. Time itself blocks your view, and no ship can sail beyond. For many people, this realization evokes the same unease as staring into a dark abyss. We are accustomed to thinking of time as something that flows endlessly in both directions, stretching infinitely into the past and infinitely into the future. Yet the universe presents us with a different picture, one in which the past has a definite beginning, a first note in the cosmic symphony. There is no infinite regression of events that we can observe, no endless staircase of causes stretching backward forever. Instead, there is a wall, a sharp line where history vanishes into unknowable darkness. This should unsettle us because it means that human beings are not just limited in what we can know, but that our very conception of reality is built on partial evidence. Everything we think we understand about the cosmos is extrapolated from the sliver of time we are allowed to see. We are like historians piecing together the story of an empire with only the last surviving chapters of its chronicles. The first volumes, the ones that might explain everything, are lost to us. We can speculate, we can build models, but we can never recover them. There is a kind of claustrophobia in this. Space is often imagined as boundless, infinite, liberating. But when you factor in time, the boundlessness collapses into a cage. The observable universe is like a snow globe, a dazzling sphere of galaxies floating in a sea of darkness. But unlike a snow globe, it is not enclosed by glass. It is enclosed by time. No matter how far we reach outward, we remain inside the sphere because the sphere itself is defined not by walls, but by the beginning of time's arrow. And yet the most unnerving part is not the presence of this temporal edge, but the questions it raises. What does it mean for there to be an edge of time? Did time itself begin with the Big Bang, or was there something before, some deeper reality hidden behind the curtain? Are we wrong to think of time as having a beginning at all, or is it simply that our vision is too weak to pierce the infinite? The edge of time may not be a hard boundary, but a mirage born of our limited perspective, an artifact of our instruments and our theories rather than a true end. But whether the edge is real or an illusion, the effect is the same. To us, it is absolute. We cannot see past, it cannot measure past, it cannot live past it. We exist in the shallow waters near the shore of time, gazing toward an abyss we can never enter. That knowledge brings with it a strange mixture of emotions. Wonder because we are capable of seeing so much, of tracing light across billions of years. Humility because there is a line we cannot cross. And dread because the most profound mysteries of existence may forever remain beyond our reach. To look at the edge of time is to stare into the deepest silence imaginable, a silence not of distance, but of chronology. It is a silence that suggests we will never know the full story, that the origin of everything we are and everything we see will remain cloaked in mystery. This is the true terror of cosmology, not that the universe is empty or indifferent, but that it is fundamentally opaque. No matter how much we learn, there will always be a horizon we cannot pass. And yet there is one final question that lingers, pulling at the imagination. Is the edge of time truly absolute? Or is it only a boundary drawn by our current way of seeing? Could it be that what we call the beginning is only one frame in a much larger film, one act in a grander play whose earlier scenes are forever hidden from us? We stand here at the edge of knowledge, pressed against the curtain of time itself, and we cannot help but wonder whether the boundary is real or just a trick of perception. Perhaps the horror is not that the edge exists, but that we will never know which it is. We do not see the true universe, only its shadow. This realization is enough to make the most confident scientist pause, because it reveals that what we call the universe is not the whole story, but a projection, a fragment shaped by the limits of our perception. The cosmos we map and measure, the galaxies scattered across our charts, the great filaments of dark matter drawn by simulations. These are not the totality of reality, only the portion that light has allowed us to glimpse. What lies beyond the veil of our observation may be unimaginably vast, perhaps infinite, and yet to us it remains invisible, unknowable, silent. It is humbling to admit that the universe we often speak of is not truly the universe at all, but a bounded bubble of visibility. Scientists call it the observable universe, and the very name betrays its limitation. It is not the cosmos as it is, but the cosmos as seen. This distinction matters because the two may be radically different. The observable universe is about 93 billion light-years across, at least as far as our instruments can currently measure. But the actual universe, the total stage upon which reality unfolds, could dwarf this sphere to such an extent that our cosmic bubble is nothing more than a grain of sand in an endless desert. To understand this, imagine yourself as a goldfish in a bowl. The fish swims in circles, tracing its world across the curved glass. To the goldfish, the bowl is everything, the only reality that exists. It does not know that just beyond the glass is an entire room, a house, a city, a planet. It cannot perceive them not because they do not exist, but because the boundaries of its vision are set by the bowl. In exactly the same way, humanity is trapped inside a transparent sphere of light. We mistake the walls of our bowl for the edge of existence, even though beyond them the universe stretches on in ways we can barely imagine. This perspective is profoundly unsettling because it undermines the very confidence we place in our maps of the cosmos. When we look at charts of galaxies, we are tempted to believe we are seeing the whole picture, that the universe is a canvas spread before us with edges we can trace. But this is an illusion. Our maps are shadows on the wall of a cave, reflections of a greater reality we cannot touch. Plato's allegory of the cave feels startlingly accurate here. Just as the prisoners saw only shadows and mistook them for the world, we too see only light and mistake it for the universe itself. The shadow of the universe is not meaningless. On the contrary, it tells us much about structure, history, and physics. But it is not the full thing. The truth is, larger, stranger, more alien. For all we know, the regions beyond our horizon could look nothing like what we see. Perhaps they are filled with galaxies, stars, and planets similar to ours. Or perhaps they are ruled by entirely different laws governed by physics we cannot begin to comprehend. Perhaps there are realms where space curls back on itself, where time behaves differently, where reality is built on unfamiliar foundations. To us, they remain forever hidden. This recognition leads to a deep existential unease. We humans are storytellers by nature, and we like to imagine that our story is set on a comprehensible stage. We comfort ourselves by believing that what we see is representative of what exists, that our bubble of visibility is a fair sample of the whole. But the truth may be crueler. What if our bubble is not representative at all? What if the vast majority of reality is nothing like the small fragment we inhabit? Then our sense of cosmic belonging collapses, leaving us adrift in a sea of mystery, unsure of how to place ourselves in the story of existence. Think again of the goldfish. If the fish were somehow able to sense the existence of a greater world beyond the glass but never able to see it, would it not experience a kind of existential despair? It would realize that its world is incomplete, that what it knows as totality is only a shard of something greater. The fish would be forced to live with a permanent incompleteness, a gnawing awareness that the majority of reality lies outside its reach. We are that fish swimming endlessly in our cosmic bowl, staring through the transparent walls of time and light aware that there is more but unable to reach it. The illusion of our vision also plays tricks on how we interpret cosmic scale. Because we can only see so far, we measure the universe as finite, describable, almost graspable. 93 billion light-years sounds enormous, but it is a number, a boundary, something we can hold in our minds. Infinity, on the other hand, is not something the human brain can truly comprehend. So the illusion comforts us, allowing us to believe that the universe has a size, a shape, a measurable form. Yet, the reality may be that size and shape are illusions born from our perspective. The universe could extend forever, or repeat endlessly, or curve in upon itself like a loop with no beginning or end. To live within this illusion is to live in a tension between knowledge and ignorance. On the one hand, we are capable of astonishing precision, measuring cosmic microwave background fluctuations to fractions of a degree, calculating the age of the universe to within tens of millions of years, predicting the motion of galaxies across billions of light years. On the other hand, we are like blind explorers, mapping only the shoreline of an infinite ocean. Beyond the horizon, our measurements stop, and all we have left is speculation. We cling to the belief that the ocean continues in familiar patterns, but we cannot know for certain. And here lies the quiet horror of the illusion of vision. The greatest stage of existence, the totality of reality, may lie forever hidden from us. We may spend all of human history confined to the shadows, never able to grasp the full picture. Our understanding of the universe will always be provisional, conditional, partial. We can live with this illusion, but we cannot escape it. To do so would require stepping outside the bounds of light and time themselves, and that is something no creature bound by physics can do. What we call the universe may be no more than a fragment, a sliver of a grander whole. We cannot see beyond, and perhaps we never will. That knowledge can be both inspiring and terrifying. Inspiring because it means there is always mystery, always more to imagine. Terrifying because it means our entire understanding of existence may rest on shadows, reflections, illusions. And just when this thought settles into the mind, another arises, even darker. If the universe we see is only a shadow, what happens when we consider not just its unseen vastness, but its motion, its expansion? The fact that with every passing moment, more of it slips beyond our grasp, carried away by the relentless growth of space itself. The illusion of vision is unsettling enough, but the expansion of the cosmos adds another layer of horror altogether. There are galaxies that are running away from us forever, not because they are speeding like rockets through pre-existing space, but because space itself is stretching beneath them, carrying them away on an invisible current. To the human mind, used to thinking of motion as cars on a highway or boats on a river, this is a difficult concept to grasp. Galaxies are not flying outward through a void. They are bound to the expanding fabric of the universe itself. And this fabric is swelling so quickly that some galaxies are effectively escaping into a realm beyond reach, slipping into a kind of cosmic exile where their light will never again find its way to us. In the early 20th century, Edwin Hubble peered through his telescope and noticed something astonishing. The galaxies he studied were not stationary pinpricks of light, but moving, each receding from us at a speed proportional to its distance. The farther away a galaxy lay, the faster it was retreating. This discovery overturned centuries of assumptions and revealed that the universe is not static but dynamic, not a fixed stage, but a growing arena. At first, the expansion seemed slow enough that we could still cling to the hope of eventually seeing everything. But then came the darker realization. Expansion is not slowing down, it is accelerating. The universe is not merely growing, it is running away from itself. Acceleration changes everything. A galaxy that is relatively close to us may still send light our way, allowing us to glimpse it across cosmic time. But a galaxy farther out may already be receding faster than light can travel. This does not mean it is breaking the cosmic speed limit, since no galaxy is out racing light through space. Instead, the very space between us and the galaxy is ballooning so rapidly that light cannot bridge the gap. Photons set out bravely from that galaxy, racing toward us, only to find the road beneath them stretching faster than they can cross. They are stranded in a forever expanding gulf. For us, it means that those galaxies, though real, are gone in every practical sense. They have become invisible islands drifting beyond the edge of our cosmic horizon. Every second, the observable universe grows emptier, not because matter is vanishing, but because matter is slipping away from visibility. Imagine standing on a vast plain, while the ground beneath your feet stretches outward. Distant mountains that you once could see are pulled farther and farther away until the horizon swallows them completely. You know the mountains still exist, but your eyes can never confirm it again. That is the fate of countless galaxies, their light stretched beyond detectability, their stars swallowed into silence. This idea strikes with an almost existential cruelty. Our universe is not only finite in what it allows us to see, it is actively erasing parts of itself from our reach. With each tick of the cosmic clock, more galaxies cross a one-way boundary into darkness. In the present day, we can observe around 2 trillion galaxies. But in the far future, most of these will disappear from sight, leaving behind only the handful gravitationally bound to our own local group. Humanity, if it survives billions or trillions of years into the future, will gaze into the night sky and see a far lonelier universe stripped of nearly all its stars. This paints a strange picture of cosmic history. Right now, in this brief window of time, the universe is generous. It allows us to see its vastness, to detect the galaxies stretching outward, to measure the rate of its expansion. But this generosity is temporary. Future civilizations will be born into an impoverished sky. For them, the stars will tell a smaller story. They will not see evidence of expansion because the evidence will have fled. To their telescopes, the universe will appear static, silent, eternal. The grand truth of cosmic evolution will be hidden from their sight. There is something almost tragic in this thought. We fragile creatures of carbon and starlight happen to emerge at just the right moment when the sky is still full, when the galaxies are still visible, when the story of expansion can still be read in the light that reaches us. We are living in the cosmic adolescence of visibility, after the fog of the early universe has cleared, but before the stars of other realms have fled forever. It is as though we have stumbled into a theatre just in time to watch the play, knowing that the curtain will soon fall and leave only an empty stage. The fleeing galaxies also invite us to reflect on the nature of loss. It is one thing to know that parts of the universe are forever hidden because light has not had time to reach us. It is another to realize that parts of the universe that were once visible are being taken away. The horizon of visibility is not static. It is shrinking, tightening around us like a noose. We are not just confined, we are being abandoned. With every passing moment, the stars are not merely distant, they are retreating into a darkness that will never be undone. The language of expansion can sometimes make it sound clean and mathematical, like a balloon inflating. But the emotional truth is far more haunting. Expansion means separation. Expansion means farewell. The galaxies do not choose to leave, yet they are gone all the same. Their light stretches into wavelengths too faint to detect, fading into whispers we can no longer hear. It is as if the universe itself is slowly dismantling the connections between its islands of light, scattering them into solitude. To think of galaxies running away forever is to confront the limits of permanence. Nothing we see in the sky is truly stable. The grand spirals, the brilliant clusters, the glowing arcs, they are not eternal fixtures but fleeting arrangements. The cosmos is writing its story on dissolving parchment, every word fading as soon as it is written. We are left clutching fragments, knowing the whole will never again be visible. And yet, within this sadness, there is also a strange gift. Because the galaxies are fleeing, we are pressed to pay attention now. The cosmos whispers to us, look while you can learn, while the light still comes. Ours may be the only moment in cosmic history when such knowledge is possible, when the expansion itself can be measured, when the universe's great secret is still on display. If anything, this deepens the sense of responsibility. We, the temporary witnesses, are charged with recording the fleeting grandeur before it disappears. Still, the knowledge is heavy. To live in a universe where galaxies are forever escaping is to live with the awareness of inevitable loss. The stars are not ours to keep, not even ours to see indefinitely. They belong to the infinite, to the unreachable, to the silence beyond. And if the present already chills the imagination, then what happens when we extend our gaze forward in time? The galaxies running from us are only the beginning. For the far future holds an even starker fate. A vision of the cosmos so bleak it almost defies imagination. There may come a day when the night sky becomes a hollow emptiness, a canvas stripped of its stars, a darkness so profound that it will feel less like a sky and more like the lid of a tomb. The thought alone is enough to make the heart hesitate, for we are creatures who have always looked upward and found company in the light. Since the first humans lifted their gaze, the stars have been companions, storytellers, navigators, and mysteries. But the laws of physics whisper that this companionship will not last. The universe is running toward an end that is not fiery and dramatic, but slow, cold, and silent. It is called the heat death of the universe. A future where every light fades, every flame goes out, and every story written in the stars dissolves into silence. The path to this eternal night begins with the very expansion we see today. Galaxies are already fleeing, their light stretched thinner and thinner by the swelling fabric of space. As the ages advance, more and more galaxies will slip beyond our cosmic horizon, leaving us with fewer beacons in the dark. What was once a dazzling dome of trillions of galaxies will shrink to only a tiny handful, the ones gravitationally bound to us. The Milky Way, Andromeda, and a few smaller neighbors will merge into a single massive structure. Beyond that, there will be nothing. The rest of the universe will have gone dark to us, not because it ceased to exist, but because the accelerating expansion has hidden it forever. For the beings alive in that distant epoch, the night sky will be unrecognizable. No faint smudge of Andromeda rising over the horizon. No great sweep of galaxies detectable by powerful telescopes. No evidence that the cosmos was once vast and full. Instead, the sky will resemble an empty black sea punctuated only by the stars of the merged galaxy. Those future astronomers, if astronomers can still exist, will see a universe that looks timeless, eternal, unchanging. They will have no way of knowing about expansion, no evidence that there were once other galaxies, no clue that their home is just one island in a cosmic ocean. The great story of the universe will have already been erased from the heavens. But even that stage is temporary. Stars themselves have lifespans. They are born, they burn, and they die. In billions of years, the most massive stars will already have vanished their brief luminous lives, ending in supernovae that leave behind black holes and neutron stars. Smaller stars like red dwarfs will burn far longer, trillions of years in some cases, but they too will eventually run out of fuel. One by one, the lights will wink out until the universe is populated mostly by the corpses of stars, white dwarfs cooling into black dwarfs, neutron stars fading into cold lumps, black holes lurking in the dark. Imagine standing beneath such a sky. No constellations to guide you, no galaxies beyond to stir wonder, no Milky Way spilling across the heavens. Only an absence, a deep velvet of nothingness. The silence would not just be physical, it would be existential. For so long, humanity has found meaning in the stars. They gave us myths, calendars, a sense of direction. They taught us humility by showing us our smallness, and they gave us awe by revealing the scale of creation. Without them, the night becomes mute, a ceiling with no stories to tell. And then even the silence deepens. Black holes, which once seemed like eternal prisons, are not eternal after all. Through a process called Hawking radiation, they too will eventually evaporate, releasing their energy in faint trickles until they vanish. The very last fireworks of the cosmos will be the slow death of black holes, stretching over unimaginable lengths of time. When even they are gone, the universe will consist of a thin mist of particles, spread so thin that they barely interact. No structures, no stars, no heat, no light. Just a flat, featureless darkness. This is the heat death, a universe not destroyed in a fiery apocalypse but suffocated in quiet. All usable energy will have been spent, all gradients, smoothed away, all possibilities of life or thought extinguished. Time itself will still tick, but there will be nothing left to mark it. The cosmos will continue, but it will no longer tell a story. It will simply exist, a corpse stretched across eternity. There is something profoundly unsettling in this picture. We are accustomed to thinking of endings as sudden and dramatic as battles or collapses. But the universe is destined, according to our best understanding, for an end that feels more like fading away. Not with a bang, but with a slow, inevitable dimming. It is a horror that operates not through violence, but through patience, a horror written into the very fabric of physics. And against this backdrop, our own existence feels even more fragile, like a brief candle flame, flickering in a cavern that will one day be sealed forever. If humanity survives long enough to see the beginnings of this great dimming, what will we feel? Perhaps grief at the loss of the stars, perhaps awe at having lived in a privileged era when the universe still revealed its grandeur, or perhaps something deeper, the recognition that our meaning has never depended on permanence. If the cosmos is heading for silence, then meaning must be created here and now by us within the temporary brightness. In a way, the looming darkness makes our existence more urgent, not less. And yet the thought lingers: what becomes of memory in a universe that forgets? If every galaxy vanishes, if every star dies, if every black hole evaporates, what will remain to testify that the universe once sang with light? The answer may be nothing. No archive will outlast entropy, no monument will stand against infinite time. Even our thoughts, our stories, our very concept of meaning may dissolve into the same nothingness. The universe is not sentimental. It does not promise to preserve us. It offers only a stage, temporary and fleeting, on which to burn briefly. But perhaps that is enough. Perhaps meaning is not in the permanence of the stage, but in the brilliance of the play. To live now in the brief era of light is to occupy a moment of staggering rarity. Out of the vast history of the cosmos, we exist at the intersection where stars still shine, where galaxies are still visible, where the story can still be told. Our era is a spark in the dark ocean of eternity, and the very fact that it will one day end makes it more precious. Still, the vision of the eternal night cannot be escaped. It waits in the far future, a shadow stretching toward us. To know it is coming is to wrestle with a kind of cosmic despair. And yet in that despair lies a strange kind of clarity. We see the end, and so we know the value of the present. The night sky today is not empty, it is full beyond measure. The galaxies are still running, but many are still here, shining, waiting for us to notice. One day, the darkness will claim them, but today they belong to us. And so the question grows sharper. If the future holds only silence, what then is the meaning of our fleeting voices? This is not merely an astronomical puzzle, but a philosophical one. Perhaps the answer lies not in escaping the night, but in embracing the brief blaze of light we are given. For if the universe itself will one day lose its story, then we must be the storytellers, if only for a moment. Perhaps we are asking questions that cannot have answers. The thought sits uneasily in the mind like a whisper that refuses to fade, because everything in our history as a species has been built on the faith that questions lead somewhere, that knowledge expands outward like ripples on water, that each discovery is a doorway into clarity. But the universe has a crueler sense of humor. Every time we open a door, we find a hallway with more doors, each leading to still more, each corridor stretching on into the dark. There is no center, no final room of truth waiting at the end. What we call progress may simply be an endless walking through a labyrinth designed without exit. Science has always been our candle against the void. From the moment we first charted the stars with sticks in the dirt to the age of telescopes peering back toward the beginning of time, we have trusted in light to lead us. But the deeper we shine our lantern into the dark, the more we see that the darkness is not shrinking, only expanding. Each answer gives birth to more questions. Questions that cut deeper than the ones before. Questions that suggest perhaps there is no bottom to this well. If this is true, then knowledge itself is not the conquering hero we imagined, but a Sisyphean labor, forever rolling its stone upward, only to watch it fall again forever, knowing more, but never knowing enough. Consider our position. We live on a small planet circling an average star in the outer arm of an unremarkable galaxy. Our instruments, powerful as they are, show us only a thin slice of the cosmic stage. Even the grandest observatory is a kind of magnifying glass, pressed against a keyhole through which we squint at a play that began billions of years before us and will continue long after. To imagine that from this sliver of time and space we might comprehend the entire script is almost comical. Yet it is our burden and our pride. The ant tracing patterns in the dust of a city street, believing it might someday map the whole metropolis. The unsettling truth is that we may simply be too small. Our minds are the product of evolution on Earth, sculpted not to understand the birth of space-time or the fate of eternity, but to solve problems of survival, to track prey, to build shelter, to find companions. We are animals of fields and forests who have almost by accident stumbled into the library of the gods. The symbols on the shelves are dazzling, the whispers intoxicating, but perhaps much of it will always remain unreadable to us, not because we lack will, but because we lack the kind of minds capable of holding the whole. To expect otherwise may be like asking a bird to compose symphonies or a fish to imagine the desert. And here lies the essence of a different kind of cosmic horror. Not monsters lurking in the dark, not apocalyptic destruction, but something quieter, subtler, and far more enduring the realization that the universe might forever exceed the reach of our understanding. It is not hostile, not malicious, not even indifferent in any dramatic sense. It is simply beyond us. We might stand before its great questions. What is time? Why does anything exist at all? What lies before the Big Bang, and recognize that we can never touch the answers. Knowledge ends not at the edge of discovery, but at the limits of the mind itself. For many, this is unbearable. We like to believe that limits exist to be broken, that impossibility is only temporary. But what if there are boundaries that cannot be crossed? What if the curtain never lifts, no matter how bright the spotlight grows? The very idea cuts against the grain of human ambition. It leaves us with the strange feeling that our species, so clever and inventive, may still be like children pressing seashells to their ears, thinking they hear the ocean, while the real ocean stretches infinite and unreachable just beyond sight. And yet there is another way to see it. If the universe is beyond comprehension, then what we are left with is mystery. Mystery is not failure, it is fuel. It is the engine of imagination, the reason we tell stories, the reason we dream. When we accept that the full truth may be unreachable, we are freed to invent, to wonder, to play with possibilities. Our myths, our philosophies, our art, even our science itself, all are responses to the infinite canvas of questions. The limits of knowledge do not strangle creativity, they fertilize it. If the universe cannot be solved, then it must be sung, painted, narrated. This perhaps is the paradox at the heart of our condition. We are creatures who hunger for answers but thrive in questions. If we could solve the universe like a riddle, if we could write the final equation that explains everything, what then? The story would end. The fire of curiosity would gutter. It is the uncertainty, the endless not knowing that keeps us alive as thinkers, as explorers, as storytellers. The horror of ignorance is also the blessing of imagination. So perhaps the real tragedy would not be that we cannot understand, but that one day we might think we do. To mistake the edge of our vision for the edge of reality, to declare the book closed when we have only skimmed the introduction, that would be a far crueler fate than any cosmic silence. Better to live knowing we are small, that the halls of truth stretch beyond us, than to shrink the universe into the cage of our certainties. Every time we look up at the night sky, we are reminded of this duality. The stars are both familiar and alien, comforting and terrifying, knowable and unknowable. We can measure their distances, weigh their masses, predict their deaths, yet we cannot hold the whole of their meaning. They are both facts and mysteries, and so are we. We are facts of biology, measurable and describable, yet we are also mysteries to ourselves, questions walking around in the shape of flesh. Perhaps then the purpose of our minds is not to conquer the universe, but to dance with it. Not to own truth, but to circle it, to trace its outlines in words and symbols, to let it remain partially veiled while still reaching toward it with trembling hands. In this way, even our failure becomes a kind of success. Even our limits become a kind of beauty. And in that light, the horror dissolves into something softer, something almost hopeful. We may never grasp the full shape of reality, but in the striving we create meaning. The ant cannot map the city, but in its wandering it still knows paths, it still finds sustenance, it still leaves trails for others to follow. So too with us. Our questions may not bring us final answers, but they weave the story of our species. A story that itself becomes part of the universe's memory, however brief. So yes, perhaps we are asking questions that cannot have answers, but perhaps that is exactly what we were meant to do. To live inside the question, to breathe its air, to carry its weight. The abyss does not give us clarity, but it gives us wonder. And maybe in the end, that is enough. Perhaps the universe is only the first chapter in an infinite book. The thought is intoxicating, unsettling, and strangely poetic. For all of human history, we have imagined ourselves inside, a story told by gods, by fate, by the laws of physics, or by chance. But what if the tale we know, the Big Bang, the swelling of galaxies, the birth and death of stars, is only a prelude, a fragment, a page torn from a library, so vast our minds can scarcely hold the image? If so, then the story of the universe is not complete, not even close. It is still being written line by line in a language we only half understand. The idea of the multiverse emerges from this hunger for more pages. Our Big Bang may not be the whole book, but a single opening sentence in an anthology of unimaginable scope. Cosmologists have begun to entertain scenarios in which universes are born the way bubbles appear in boiling water, each one swelling for a time, colliding or drifting apart into isolation. Each bubble might have its own laws of physics, its own flavors of time and space, its own rules about what can exist and what cannot. In one, gravity may be stronger, pulling stars into clusters too dense to breathe. In another, atoms may never form, leaving behind only seas of sterile radiation. In yet another, life might bloom in shapes we could not recognize, consciousness flickering across strange substrates. If so, then our universe is not the universe, but simply one instance of reality's many experiments. This notion can be both comforting and terrifying. Comforting because it suggests that our universe is not uniquely fragile. If this cosmos ends, there may be others endlessly. The story continues somewhere, somehow. Terrifying because it shrinks us even further. We are not only small within our cosmos, but perhaps infinitely small across countless others. The sense of belonging we carve from starlight may dissolve into the realization that our chapter is only one line in an endless, unread manuscript. But there is a deeper philosophical weight here. If the universe is unfinished, then so too is meaning itself. We often long for closure, for a final truth, a definitive revelation that ties the cosmos together. Yet an infinite book has no last page, no climax, no resolution. Its beauty lies in its openness, its refusal to be pinned down. Every attempt to declare the end becomes only another beginning. This suggests that perhaps the purpose of existence is not to find the whole story, but to participate in its unfolding, to live as characters within a tale that is still being told. There is also the question of whether our minds can truly hold such a vision. When we imagine the multiverse, we are like dreamers, tracing shadows, trying to grasp infinity with finite hands. The idea that there could be not just more stars but more realities, not just more galaxies but more laws of physics, bends our thoughts until they nearly break. And yet within that strain lies the very essence of imagination. It is the act of stretching against the walls of the possible, of daring to picture what cannot be seen. This too is a kind of truth, even if it never yields equations or experiments. The metaphor of the book lingers for a reason. Stories are how we navigate mystery. A story gives structure to chaos. It offers a beginning, a middle, and sometimes an end. To think of the universe as a story is to admit our need for narrative, to cloak the incomprehensible in something familiar. But what if the universe is not a novel, but a library? What if it is a collection of books, each with different alphabets, each telling different tales? Some tragic, some comic, some incomprehensible. We might have wandered into one such volume, blind to the shelves around us. To realize this is at once exhilarating and crushing exhilarating, because it implies boundless richness. Crushing, because it reminds us we will never read it all. There is also the possibility that the story of our universe is not the first, but merely the latest in a chain of stories. Perhaps before our Big Bang there was another universe that collapsed into silence, its ashes giving rise to our dawn. Perhaps ours will in turn give birth to another, and another, still a cycle of stories without author or final word. In this light, the multiverse is not a simultaneous collection, but a serial epic, each chapter erasing and rewriting the last. If so, then even the death of our cosmos is not the end, but a hand turning the page. And yet there is an undeniable suspicion that all of this might be no more than an elaborate comfort. We invent sequels to avoid endings. We imagine infinite books to escape the blank page of silence. When we speak of the multiverse, are we uncovering a cosmic truth, or simply spinning metaphors to soothe the terror of finitude? This question gnaws at the edge of every speculation. It is one thing to dream of other universes, it is another to know if they exist. Without evidence, we may be like children, building castles in the air, lovely but untouchable. Still, perhaps such castles are necessary. Perhaps without them we could not bear the thought of our story ending in darkness. Yet maybe the line between comfort and truth is not as sharp as we fear. Stories, after all, have always been our way of grappling with the unknown. They need not be literal to be powerful. The multiverse, whether real or imagined, allows us to think about scale, about possibility, about humility. It reminds us that our chapter, however brief, is not the whole of the book. Whether or not there are truly infinite universes, the act of imagining them reshapes us, making our lives richer, our perspective wider. And so the metaphor remains the universe as an unfinished story. We are not its authors, not fully. We are characters written into its pages, yet also storytellers ourselves, weaving new meanings as we go. The tension between these roles is what makes life feel both fleeting and profound. We do not control the arc of the cosmos, but we do choose how to tell it, how to interpret the words we find, how to pass them on. In that sense, every human life is itself a sentence in the larger story, fragile but luminous, brief but essential. If the universe is indeed only a first chapter, then our task is not to close the book, but to keep reading, even knowing we may never reach the end. To live as though the library is infinite, as though the shelves stretch beyond imagination, is not despair but wonder. It is to walk with open eyes into mystery, to accept that the story is unfinished, and perhaps always will be. And in that unfinishedness lies its greatest beauty. So perhaps the multiverse is real, perhaps it is not. Perhaps there are other chapters, perhaps ours is the only one. Either way, the truth remains: the universe we inhabit is not static, not simple, not fully known. It is alive with questions, with possibilities, with stories yet to be told. And that is enough to make every star, every breath, every fleeting thought feel like a line in a poem written across eternity. Perhaps what Lovecraft once imagined in feverish dreams lies far closer to reality than we are comfortable admitting. His stories painted vast and indifferent universes full of ancient beings whose very existence shattered the fragile boundaries of human reason. He never needed to describe these beings in detail, because the true terror was not the creature itself, but the yawning abyss of insignificance that opened up when humans confronted something beyond comprehension. To read Lovecraft is to feel that sudden vertigo, that sense of being small and temporary in the face of something immeasurable. What once felt like Gothic fantasy, however, has begun to resonate eerily with what modern science tells us about the actual universe. The link between cosmic horror and modern cosmology is not coincidental. Lovecraft was writing at a time when human understanding of the cosmos was expanding rapidly, when astronomers were first realizing that the Milky Way was not the whole of existence, but merely one galaxy among billions. The more humanity looked outward, the less central it became. Today, that process has only accelerated. Telescopes have shown us light from galaxies, billions of years old. Cosmic microwave background maps have revealed a universe stretching far beyond what we can ever see, and the equations of general relativity whisper of space-time bending, stretching and collapsing in ways that defy intuition. The result is that the very act of doing science often places us in the same position as Lovecraft's characters, standing at the edge of something so immense, so alien, that our words and categories begin to falter. The monsters in Lovecraft's work, Cthulhu rising from the sea, or Azathoth churning at the center of all chaos, can be read as metaphors for truths too vast to bear. They embody the incomprehensible scales of space and time, the fragility of human reason when faced with infinity, and the creeping suspicion that the universe does not care about us at all. For Lovecraft, the horror was not claws or teeth, but perspective. He stripped away the illusion of centrality and left his readers staring into an abyss. Modern physics, in its own way, performs a similar operation. It tells us that the stars will fade, that galaxies are fleeing from us forever, that entropy grows without pity, and that even time itself may have a boundary beyond which no meaning exists. This is not myth, but measurement. The numbers themselves speak the horror. One of the most unsettling aspects of this convergence between literature and science is that the real universe is in some ways more terrifying than Lovecraft dared to imagine. He envisioned alien gods indifferent to human affairs, but he still gave them shape, however vague. Physics does not even grant us that. Instead, it confronts us with abstraction, with the cold impersonality of equations describing heat death, black holes, or infinite inflation. There is no face to plead, with no creature to resist, only the silence of processes unfolding on scales utterly beyond us. If Lovecraft suggested that madness awaited those who glimpse the truth, science suggests that indifference is all there is. The horror here is not that something is coming to destroy us, but that the cosmos has already written our destruction into its laws, and it will not even notice when the page turns. And yet there is an uncanny beauty in this terror. To see the stars not as guardians or omens, but as nuclear furnaces scattered across an expanding void, is at once disorienting and sublime. The very indifference of the universe grants us a strange kind of freedom. If there is no script written for us, no cosmic author bending us toward a destined end, then everything we value, our stories, our loves, our art, becomes all the more precious because it arises in defiance of that indifference. This is perhaps the most Lovecraftian irony of all, that his vision of despair, when refracted through science, can also generate awe. What modern cosmology has added to the conversation is the realization that our gaze has touched the edges of time itself. With instruments sensitive enough to capture the faint whispers of the cosmic microwave background, we have effectively seen to the very limit of the visible universe, back to a time when matter was still glowing from the heat of creation. It is as though humanity has placed its fingers against the glass wall of its cosmic aquarium, peering out at a boundary it cannot cross. Lovecraft imagined doors to forbidden dimensions, but science has shown us one more frightening. A barrier not of wood or stone, but of physics itself, absolute and unyielding. We can calculate its distance, describe its texture in radiation maps, and yet never step beyond it. This is where the horror deepens. For in peering so far, we have confirmed not only the vastness of what is beyond, but also the certainty that it is beyond us. Every discovery pushes the horizon further away, until we realize that what we call the universe is merely a shrinking island surrounded by infinite sea. The galaxies we once marveled at are already slipping away, carried faster than light by the swelling fabric of space. Each second, more stars vanish from any possible future contact. What remains visible to us is not the whole story, only the fading remnants of a narrative whose continuation is forever sealed. Lovecraft's protagonists often lost their sanity when they understood too much. Science offers a quieter but more enduring madness, the recognition that the more we learn, the more final our ignorance becomes. And yet, despite this, we continue. We continue to build telescopes, to map radiation fields, to launch probes into the dark. In this persistence lies another answer, one that Lovecraft did not emphasize, but that science insists upon: curiosity is stronger than fear. Even when faced with the inevitability of loss, humans press forward, writing their own meaning into a universe that offers none by default. The fact that we can measure the edge of time, even knowing it will never yield to us, is a triumph. It is a way of saying that insignificance does not erase significance, that the two can coexist. So when we read Lovecraft alongside the language of cosmology, we find a peculiar resonance. The fiction spoke of dread, of fragile minds, breaking under the weight of the infinite. The science shows us equations, maps, and models, but at their core they whisper the same thing: we are small, we are temporary, and the cosmos does not bend itself to us. Yet in facing this truth, we find not only terror, but also wonder. Perhaps that is the most frightening and beautiful revelation of all, that the horror is real, that the abyss exists, and that we can look into it without turning away. And so the bridge between fiction and science is not one of decoration, but of recognition. Lovecraft guessed at what science would later reveal: that the deepest terror is not the monster in the dark, but the dark itself. The immensity that swallows our certainties whole. The fact that we can now touch the edge of time with our instruments only sharpens the point. We stand as his characters once did on the brink of an incomprehensible truth. But unlike them, we do not collapse in despair. We keep asking questions even as the answers elude us. In that persistence lies our quiet defiance, our refusal to let the abyss have the last word. Every time you raise a telescope toward the sky, you are not just looking outward, you are looking backward. The stars are not simply lights shining above you in the present moment. They are fragments of history, couriers of ancient messages traveling across time. To gaze at them is to become, in a sense, a passive time traveler. Unlike the roaring machines of science fiction that fling their passengers into alternate eras, a telescope does not move you at all. Instead, it allows the past to arrive at your eyes carried on beams of light that have been crossing the universe long before humanity ever existed to witness them. This is one of the quiet miracles of astronomy, and perhaps one of its most haunting. When you look at the moon through a small backyard telescope, you are already seeing it as it was about a second and a half ago, the time it takes for light to make that journey. When you look at the sun carefully filtered, of course you are seeing it as it was 8 minutes earlier. With every deeper look into space, you are pushed further back into history. The Andromeda Galaxy, our nearest large neighbor, hangs in the sky as a smear of faint light, yet that glow has been traveling for over 2 million years. Every photon striking your retina tonight began its journey when early humans were just learning to shape stone into tools. To look through a telescope is to watch time unfold in reverse, layer by layer, until the present becomes inseparable from the distant past. Modern astronomy has taken this passive time travel to an almost mythic level. The Hubble Space Telescope once revealed galaxies that formed only a few 100 million years after the Big Bang. Now the James Webb Space Telescope has gone further still, its infrared eyes peeling back the cosmic curtain to show us light that left its source more than 13 billion years ago. These images are not simply photographs, they are fossils of light artifacts that preserve the very moment when the first galaxies ignited their stars. Looking at them is to stand on the edge of creation itself, to watch the universe assembling itself from chaos into order. It is difficult not to feel small in such moments, but it is equally difficult not to feel reverent, as if peeking into a forbidden library where the earliest chapters of existence are still written in fire. And yet, as awe-inspiring as this vision is, it comes with a boundary that no instrument can cross. There is a wall invisible yet absolute known as the cosmic microwave background. This faint glow, discovered in the 20th century by accident, when two scientists mistook it for pigeon droppings in their radio antenna, is in truth the leftover radiation from a time when the universe was only about 3,8,0,0,0 years old. Before that moment, light could not travel freely. The universe was a dense plasma of particles constantly scattering photons, a fog so thick that no signal could escape. When the cosmos cooled enough for atoms to form, the fog lifted and the first light burst forth. What we detect today as the microwave background is that very moment of release, stretched and dimmed by billions of years of expansion. The implication is profound. The cosmic microwave background is not just a glow in the sky, it is a horizon, a wall of time. Beyond it we cannot see, not because our telescopes are weak, but because light itself did not yet exist in a form that could carry information. The James Webb, powerful as it is, cannot pierce this veil. It can approach it brushing against its edges, but it cannot cross into what came before. In this sense, astronomy offers us a time machine that can carry us nearly all the way back to the beginning, but then stops at a locked door, a boundary the universe itself has drawn. This limitation is not only scientific, it is existential. For if we cannot see beyond the microwave background, then we are forever blind to the actual beginning. We can speculate, we can build mathematical models, we can speak of quantum fluctuations and inflationary bursts, but we cannot witness them. The Big Bang, the singular moment when time and space themselves may have come into being, remains hidden behind an eternal curtain. What we call the beginning is, in truth, a point just beyond our grasp, a ghost at the edge of our vision. In this way, the cosmos itself becomes a kind of cosmic storyteller, offering us the prologue of its tale, but tearing away the first page before we can read it. And still, that torn page haunts us. Human beings are not content with horizons. Every horizon becomes an invitation to wonder what lies beyond it. The microwave background may mark the limit of light, but not of imagination. Physicists speculate about what came before that luminous wall, whether the universe sprang from nothing, or from a cycle of previous universes, or from the branching of a multiverse that continues endlessly beyond our reach. Each hypothesis is in its way a story written to fill the void, a reminder that even when the telescope ceases to function as our time machine, our minds continue the journey. The paradox here is almost poetic. We are creatures born into a universe that hides its origin, yet we are also creatures compelled to ask about that origin. The night sky in all its silence stirs questions louder than any thunder. To use a telescope is not simply to collect data, it is to participate in an ancient act of seeking to trace light back toward its source, and by doing so to trace ourselves back toward our own. In every flicker of starlight lies the memory of a cosmos that was once young, hot, and unfamiliar. To gaze upon it is to place ourselves in the long continuum of time, to recognize that we are not the beginning nor the end, but merely one fleeting moment in between. Perhaps that is the true gift of telescopes. Not that they let us travel backward in time, but that they remind us how deeply time is woven into everything we see. The universe is not a static dome of stars, but a moving narrative unfolding across billions of years. Each observation is a footnote in that story, each photon a sentence written long ago. We cannot read the first line nor the last, but we can marvel at the chapters available to us, and in doing so we realize that we ourselves are also writing. Our questions, our instruments, our restless curiosity, these are the ink with which humanity adds its own marginal notes to the cosmic manuscript. And so the telescope, humble though it may seem, becomes both tool and metaphor. It is a machine that gathers light, but it is also a mirror that shows us our desire to reach backward to touch the untouchable. It makes us historians of the stars, archaeologists of the cosmos, wanderers in a past we can never inhabit but always glimpse. In its lens, the universe ceases to be a static stage and becomes a living memory stretching from our present to nearly the beginning of time. And beyond that, beginning lies the greatest mystery of all, the question that compels us forward even when no answer waits on the other side of the wall. What lies beyond the first light? There is a region of time we know must exist, but light itself has sworn never to reveal it. Beyond the cosmic microwave background, on the far side of that glowing wall that marks the earliest light, lies an era shrouded in silence. It was a time when the universe was so young, so dense, and so chaotic that light could not move freely. Photons ricocheted, endlessly trapped in a fog of particles, unable to escape or carry information outward. To peer into that epoch is to look at a world without transparency, a world that remains hidden not because of distance, but because the very laws of physics prevented light from ever reaching us. This period is often called the opaque universe, and the name itself carries a strange weight. To imagine the cosmos as opaque feels almost absurd, because our entire experience of the universe is built on transparency. We see stars because space is empty enough for light to cross it. We see galaxies because the interstellar medium is thin enough to allow radiation to travel for billions of years. Yet in those first few 100,000 years, none of this was true. The universe was not a vast ocean of clarity. It was a churning plasma sea, more like the interior of a star than the open night sky we know. In that hot, crowded storm, photons were as helpless as raindrops inside a thundercloud, scattering again and again, unable to break free. To us, this is a kind of cosmic censorship. The light of that era never made it out, which means no telescope will ever show us what the universe truly looked like before the fog lifted. We are left with a hole in our cosmic memory, a dark curtain hanging between us and the moment of origin. This curtain is not just metaphorical, it is literal. It is a barrier that blocks vision, a boundary across which no light has passed. In practical terms, it means that the earliest chapters of the universe's story are and will always remain hidden from our direct sight. We know they are there, We can sense their consequences in the way the universe looks today, but the events themselves are erased from our view, like ink smeared on a page before we had the chance to read it. For many scientists, this is both frustrating and exhilarating. On one hand, it feels like a locked vault of truth, a period of cosmic history that mocks our instruments and leaves us with questions that can never be fully answered. On the other, it forces us to grow creative, to invent new ways of listening to the universe when seeing is impossible. If light fails us, perhaps gravity will speak. If photons were trapped, perhaps neutrinos slipped through. These faint whispers, these alternative messengers, may carry traces of what happened on the other side of the darkness. In this way, the opaque universe is not simply a dead end, but a challenge, a puzzle whose missing pieces may be filled not with light, but with subtler signals. And yet, even as we search for these whispers, the existence of this blind spot is deeply humbling. Imagine tracing your family tree only to find that the first several generations are gone, erased from the record, leaving only vague hints and speculation about who your ancestors were. That is what humanity faces when it looks into the early universe. We see the aftermath, we study the debris, we infer what might have been, but the original scene remains out of reach. The earliest stars, the very first structures, the moment when energy and matter began to dance into form, all of it exists in that hidden space, sealed away behind a fog we can never lift. This ignorance is not trivial. It touches the very heart of our quest to understand why the universe exists at all. What happened before the cosmic microwave background holds the keys to the deepest mysteries. Why matter won over antimatter? Why the cosmos expanded the way it did, whether space itself is infinite or finite. These are not details at the margin. They are the foundation of everything that followed. To be denied direct access to them is to live with an eternal absence, a void not of space, but of knowledge. It is a black hole of history, swallowing not stars but memory. There is also something profoundly human about this predicament. We are creatures who tell stories, who crave beginnings and endings. To us, every narrative demands an opening scene, but in the cosmic narrative, that opening is missing. We walk into the theater halfway through the film, knowing the prologue was essential but forever lost. We can only guess what the first act looked like, reconstruct it from the echoes we hear later on, but we can never watch it directly. For a species so obsessed with origins, this is an almost unbearable irony. And yet the very fact that this darkness exists shapes our imagination. It pushes us to ask questions we might never have asked if the answers were obvious. What does it mean to live in a universe with secrets? What does it mean that our vision, so prized and so powerful, is ultimately limited? Perhaps this is the truest form of cosmic horror. Not that monsters lurk in the shadows, but that the powerful shadows themselves will never lift, that some truths are written into the structure of reality as eternally unknowable. Still, even in this despair there is wonder, for the opaque universe was not meaningless. It was the crucible in which the cosmos prepared itself for the light. The chaos of that hidden age gave birth to order. From the dense plasma atoms would emerge. From the fog, the first stars would ignite. From the silence, galaxies would blossom. Though we cannot see it, we carry its legacy in every atom of our bodies, for it was in that invisible age that the matter of the universe took its first breath. We are, in a way, children of the darkness, born from a time no eye will ever behold. So when we lift our gaze to the night sky and see only the aftermath, we are reminded of the limits of sight. There is a place we know exists, but light will never reveal it. A place not beyond distance, but beyond transparency. A place that belongs forever to the unseen. It is a reminder that the universe is not ours to fully possess, that its deepest truths are not waiting patiently for us to discover, but are sometimes hidden deliberately by the structure of reality itself. And perhaps that is the point. Perhaps the universe, in keeping its earliest self hidden, invites us into humility. It teaches us that knowledge is always incomplete, that mystery is not an obstacle, but a partner in the dance of discovery. We do not need to see everything to wonder, nor to understand everything to marvel. The opaque age sealed behind its veil, becomes not just a loss but a gift, a reminder that even in silence, even in darkness, the cosmos is still speaking. We just have to learn how to listen. If sight fails us, perhaps hearing will suffice. The universe, even in its most secretive ages, has never been entirely silent. Though light was trapped in the dense fog of the early cosmos, other messengers slipped through carrying stories that photons could never tell. These are the hidden traces of the universe, faint signals that survive like whispers from behind a locked door. If we cannot look into the beginning, maybe we can listen to it. One of the most tantalizing of these hidden messengers is the cosmic neutrino background. Neutrinos are ghostly particles that barely interact with matter, passing through stars, planets, and even our own bodies by the trillions every second, leaving almost no sign of their presence. They are nearly impossible to catch, yet they hold clues from times when light itself was shackled. While photons were trapped in the primordial plasma for hundreds of thousands of years, neutrinos decoupled mere seconds after the Big Bang, slipping through the chaos and escaping into the cosmos. They carry within them the memory of an era we cannot otherwise see. To detect them would be like hearing the first cries of the newborn universe, raw and unfiltered, unblurred by the later fog of light. Then there are gravitational waves, the ripples in space-time itself. Unlike light, they do not scatter or get trapped. They glide through matter as though it were transparent, undisturbed by the chaos of particles and plasma. If the Big Bang was a drum, gravitational waves are its sound waves still reverberating through the cosmos. Long before photons were freed to roam, these ripples were already coursing outward, unimpeded and eternal. Detecting such primordial gravitational waves would be like pressing an ear against the fabric of reality and hearing the vibrations of creation itself. The idea is staggering because it means that the universe has always been speaking in multiple languages. We just happen to have been fluent only in the language of light. For centuries, astronomy was nothing more than watching the sky gathering photons with ever more sensitive eyes. We mistook that single sense for the whole picture. But the truth is far richer. The universe has been humming in neutrinos, it has been thrumming in gravity, it has been whispering in particles and fields beyond our current reach. Light is only one note in a cosmic symphony. To tap into these hidden signals is like standing outside a room with the door locked. You cannot open it, but you can hear the muffled voices within. You can make out laughter or weeping or music, and from those sounds you piece together the scene you cannot see. We may never witness the opaque universe with our eyes, but we might reconstruct it with our ears, with our instruments tuned not to photons, but to these deeper messengers. In doing so, we cross the boundary of vision and step into a new way of knowing. It is not easy. Catching neutrinos is like trying to stop a single raindrop in the middle of a hurricane. Detecting primordial gravitational waves is like trying to hear the faint tremor of an earthquake buried beneath oceans of noise. Yet we have begun. With giant detectors buried deep underground, shielded from the interference of ordinary particles, we have already learned to glimpse neutrinos from the Sun and from distant supernovae. With facilities like LIGO and Virgo, we have already learned to hear gravitational waves from colliding black holes and neutron stars. These are only the first steps, the tuning of our ears to the cosmic symphony. The hope is that one day, with instruments far beyond today's, we will hear the faintest notes, the ones left behind, at the very dawn of time. The implications are profound. If we succeed, we will not simply confirm theories, we will gain access to the only direct evidence of the universe's birth. We will know whether inflation truly happened, whether space itself expanded in a heartbeat of unimaginable speed, whether exotic physics once ruled before atoms and light and stars. We will hold in our hands the fingerprints of creation, left not in light, but in vibrations and particles that slipped past the fog. This possibility forces us to reconsider what it means to know. For so long to know, the universe meant to see it. We believed that vision was truth, that the eye was the ultimate arbiter of knowledge. But here we encounter a domain where eyes are useless, where truth can only be heard, not seen. It is a humbling reminder that human senses are narrow and the cosmos is wide. If we confine ourselves to sight, we remain blind. Only by expanding our instruments, by learning new languages of detection, do we approach the fullness of reality. And yet, even as we dream of detecting these hidden signals, there is an unsettling beauty in their elusiveness. Neutrinos slip through us without a trace. Gravitational waves roll through the Earth without pause. They are reminders that we live in a universe mostly invisible, mostly untouchable, mostly beyond us. What we call reality is only a thin slice of what truly exists. The rest passes through us, constantly unheeded, unnoticed, yet shaping the very cosmos we inhabit. In this way, listening to the hidden traces of the universe is not just a scientific pursuit, it is an existential one. It asks us to confront the limits of perception, the humility of being creatures adapted to a narrow band of sensory input, and the audacity of building machines that extend us into realms we were never meant to reach. To detect the cosmic neutrino background, to hear primordial gravitational waves, would be to place a stethoscope against the heart of the universe and hear it beating across eternity. And so if we cannot look, we will listen. If we cannot see the birth of the universe, we will hear its echoes. If photons fail us, we will turn to neutrinos and gravity and every other faint signal that slips through the cracks. We are, after all, a species that refuses silence. Even when the cosmos hides its face, we lean closer, straining for the faintest sound. What we hear may not comfort us. It may tell us that the universe is stranger than we ever imagined, that the stories we tell ourselves are too simple for the complexity of creation. It may whisper of forces beyond our comprehension, eras that defy imagination, truths that shatter our philosophies. But even if it terrifies us, even if it leaves us smaller and more fragile than we hoped, it will still be knowledge. It will still be contact with the unreachable. To listen is to hope. To listen is to resist silence. And to listen is to prepare ourselves for the final question, the oldest fear, the one that waits behind all others. For in the end, what lies beyond the barriers, beyond the echoes and the whispers, is not just a scientific puzzle, but a reflection of the most primal terror we carry, the terror of nothingness and the terror of meaning. And that is where our journey must go next. We stand at a strange crossroads. With our instruments, our mathematics, and our restless curiosity, we have peered further than any generation before us. We have seen the faint afterglow of the Big Bang, traced the births of galaxies billions of years ago, measured the slow stretching of space itself. In a sense, we are staring at the very edge of time, gazing across a gulf so vast that light has taken nearly 14 billion years to bridge it. And yet, for all this extraordinary progress, the feeling that arises is not one of mastery or completion, but of vertigo. Because no matter how far we look, the horizon of knowledge only recedes. We glimpse the boundary, but we cannot cross it. We map the visible, but beyond it lies the infinite, indifferent, and unbroken. Infinity is not just a number, it is a shiver. To think about it too long is to feel the floor tilt beneath you, as though reason itself is being stretched past its breaking point. For the human mind, so well adapted to the finite, the tangible, the countable infinity, is an intruder, a guest that never quite fits in the house of thought. We try to tame it with symbols and equations, but those are only shadows. Infinity is not contained by our mathematics, it only peers through the cracks. In the context of the universe, infinity is the abyss we keep stumbling against. Perhaps the universe is infinite, in extent stretching outward without edge or border, every galaxy cluster merely one thread in an endless fabric. Or perhaps time itself is infinite, with no true beginning and no conceivable end, our Big Bang, only one ripple in an eternal sea. Even if the universe is finite in size, it may be infinite in its possibilities, with multiverses sprouting endlessly like branches from a cosmic tree. Whatever shape infinity takes, it is always beyond us, always larger than any container we might build for it. And here is where the cosmic horror sets in. Horror, not in the form of tentacled beasts or alien invaders, but in the quiet realization that the universe does not bend itself toward our comprehension. It does not owe us, meaning it does not promise resolution. It does not care whether we are here to witness it or not. We may imagine that science will one day solve all mysteries, that the final equation will at last unlock the whole of existence. But even if such an equation were found, what then? We would still face the abyss of infinity, the unanswerable why that lies behind all laws, the endless chain of causes that no beginning can arrest. It is like standing on the shore of an ocean at night. You can hear the waves breaking. You can trace the foam as it glows faintly under the moonlight, but when you look beyond, there is only blackness, horizonless and silent. The ocean does not end, but your eyes do. So too with the universe. The darkness stretches without limit, but our minds recoil, unable to accept the unbounded without trying to box it in. That act of boxing, of drawing borders around infinity, may be our greatest illusion. This is where humility returns, uninvited yet necessary. For centuries, humanity has placed itself at the center, first literally as the heart of creation, then metaphorically as the species destined to comprehend it all. But the deeper we gaze, the more we are reminded that we are not central, not necessary, not even particularly significant. We are a speck of carbon in the glow of a single star, one thread in a tapestry that stretches far beyond any loom we can imagine. To realize this is not defeat, but revelation. Horror, yes, but also clarity. Infinity robs us of closure. It denies us the neatness of a final page, the comfort of knowing that the story is finished. We may spend centuries chasing answers and still find ourselves standing at the same precipice, staring into the same abyss. And yet, paradoxically, this is what gives our search its beauty. If the universe were small, if its truths could be gathered and pinned like insects in a glass case, the wonder would end. There would be nothing left to chase, no further mysteries to ignite our imagination. It is precisely because the universe withholds its secrets, precisely because infinity taunts us with its unreachability, that the pursuit of knowledge becomes sacred. So perhaps the real question is not whether we can conquer infinity, but how we choose to live in its shadow. Do we shrink back paralyzed by insignificance, or do we step forward, fragile but unafraid, into the vast unknown cosmic horror? Suggest that the universe is indifferent, but human meaning is born precisely in that indifference. To be small does not mean to be worthless. To be finite does not mean to be futile. Our lives are brief, but within them we can love, we can create, we can wonder. These acts may not echo forever, but they are luminous in their moment sparks against the night. Consider this right now. You are alive in a thin bubble of light, your world illuminated by a star that burns quietly in a spiral arm of a galaxy, which itself drifts through a cosmos so immense that no map could ever capture it. Everything you know, everything you feel, every story you cherish exists inside that fragile bubble. Beyond it lies silence, darkness, infinity. And yet, rather than despair, we reach outward. We build telescopes to see farther, detectors to hear fainter whispers, equations to imagine deeper truths. We may never touch infinity, but we can walk toward it step by step, question by question. In the end, perhaps the sacredness of our journey lies not in arriving at the answer, but in moving ever closer to it, knowing full well that it recedes with each step. Infinity ensures that we will never finish the story, but that unfinishedness is its gift. It keeps the flame of curiosity alive. It keeps us awake in the face of the abyss. It makes us more than animals surviving in the dark. It makes us seekers. So take a moment here and now to let the shiver of infinity wash over you. Feel the vertigo, the smallness, the sense of being adrift in a vast sea without shores. Let it unsettle you, but also let it remind you of the miracle that you are here at all, conscious questioning alive, within this brief and fragile span of time. You live inside a bubble of light, adrift in the infinite. And though you may never know the whole of the story, your part in it is no less real. Perhaps in the end it is not knowledge that makes the journey sacred, but the very fact that we journey at all. And perhaps it is not the answers but the not knowing that makes existence worth the wonder.